I had barely begun processing the betrayal when curiosity got the better of me. I knew I shouldn't, but a part of me wanted to know just how deep her lies went. So, against my better judgment, I reached out to one of our mutual friends, Mark. He had always been a straight shooter, someone I could rely on for the truth. When I told him what had happened, he sighed heavily. "Man, I was hoping you'd never find out this way," he admitted. My stomach dropped. "What do you mean?" I asked, gripping the phone tighter. There was a long pause before he finally answered. "She's been seeing him for months." I didn't know how to tell you. Months. Not a drunken one-time mistake. Not a moment of weakness. This was something planned, ongoing, a full-blown affair. My jaw clenched so tightly it hurt. I pressed for more details, and what he told me made my skin crawl. Kay wasn't just cheating. She had practically been living a double life. The guy, Jason, wasn't some random fling. He was a regular at the restaurant where she worked, a smooth-talking charmer who apparently had a habit of going after women in relationships. And Kay? She played right into it. She told him she was technically single. Mark continued, sounding disgusted. "She made you out to be some workaholic loser who didn't give her attention." That's how she justified it. A bitter laugh escaped me. So that's how she saw me? A clueless, absent boyfriend who wouldn't even notice her sneaking around? I could have laughed if it didn't hurt so much. That night, I couldn't sleep. My mind replayed every memory, every "I love you," every moment I had trusted her, every sacrifice I had made thinking we were building something real. It was all a lie. Then, an idea hit me. She wanted to play games? Fine. I could play too. Revenge served cold instead of confronting Kay. I decided to make her own lies work against her. If she wanted to treat me like a fool, it let her believe she had the upper hand, just long enough for me to turn the tables. The first step? Moving out. I had already been staying at my friend's place, but I needed to clear out my stuff before she could try to spin the situation in her favor. Early that morning, I called my landlord and explained everything. He was surprisingly understanding and even allowed me to break the lease without penalty, given the circumstances. I took the day off work and, with Mark's help, moved all my belongings while Kay was at her morning classes. By the time she got home, the apartment was empty, just like our relationship. Next, I made sure she felt the weight of what she had lost. I didn't just ghost her, I made it public. Using our shared social media accounts, I posted a simple message. "For those wondering why I'm suddenly single, ask Kay. She and Jason have been together for months. I just found out last night. Wishing them the best, they deserve each other." I didn't add drama. No insults. Just the cold, hard truth. The reaction was immediate. Mutual friends messaged me in shock. Some reached out to express their support, while others, ones who apparently knew but kept quiet, tried to justify her actions. And then, Kay called. Over and over again. I ignored her until, finally, she left a voicemail. Her voice was shaky, on the verge of tears. "How could you do this to me?" she sobbed. "You're making me look like the bad guy." "I was going to tell you, I just didn't know how." I rolled my eyes. She wasn't sorry for what she did. She was sorry she got caught. The final blow days passed, and Kay's desperate attempts to contact me only grew more pathetic. Then, something unexpected happened. Jason, the guy she had been cheating with, messaged me. At first, I thought he was going to gloat. Maybe rub it in my face. but his message was short and to the point. You were right. She's a liar. Curious, I replied. Turns out, Kay had told him she was breaking up with me weeks ago. She had promised him they'd be official, that there were no loose ends. But after my public call-out, Jason started digging deeper. He found out she had been stringing him along just like she had done to me. She told me you were this controlling jerk who never let her have a life outside of you, he admitted. But after seeing how things went down, I realized she's the problem. Karma had come full circle. Jason dumped her. She lost everything in the span of a week. Her boyfriend, her lover, her reputation. And me? I moved on. It wasn't easy. Betrayal leaves scars. But with time, I learned to trust again. I surrounded myself with people who actually cared, focused on my career, and eventually met someone who treated me with real respect. As for Kay, last I heard, she dropped out of school and moved to another city. Some say she tried to rekindle things with Jason, but he had already moved on. I never spoke to her again, and I never regretted walking away. A week later, I found out who the guy was. Not a random classmate. Not a stranger from work. It was one of my coworkers. I had seen him before, heard his name, even mentioned him in passing to Kay, never realizing I was talking about the man she was cheating on me with. And to top it off, he had a girlfriend. They weren't just betraying me. They were playing some twisted game, deceiving two people who trusted them. I considered confronting him at work, making a scene. But why? He wasn't worth it. Kay wasn't worth it. They had already lost the best thing they had, me. But I wasn't going to let him get away with it either. The next week, I walked into work as if nothing had changed. But I went straight to her, armed with evidence, screenshots, recordings, the whole ugly truth. Our company had a strict policy against workplace affairs, and his girlfriend worked in the same building. News traveled fast. Before ER even acted, she found out. By the end of the week, he was fired. His reputation? Destroyed. And me? I kept my head high and moved on. Kay showed up at my friend's place one final time. Tears streaked down her face, mascara running, hands trembling. She begged, pleaded, swore it was all a mistake, claimed she was confused, that the other guy meant nothing, that she still loved me. I let her talk. Then I met her desperate eyes and said, calm and steady, I heard everything. She paled, stopped mid-sentence. I was there that night, listening. Silence. I stood up, walked to the door, and opened it. We're done. She tried to rush toward me, but my friend stepped between us. She collapsed in the hallway, sobbing, begging, swearing she'd never do it again. That she loved me, but I felt nothing. I turned and walked away. In the end, I didn't feel victorious. There was no satisfaction in watching her break down. Just a quiet realization that I was finally free. The pain was raw, but the weight was gone. No more lies. No more humiliation. No more being played. She stopped trying to reach me after that. Maybe she moved on. Maybe guilt consumed her. I didn't care. As for me, I stayed at my job. I held my head high. And I learned. That trust, once broken, doesn't mend so easily. That love should never come at the cost of self-respect. That I am worth more than being someone's backup plan, someone's easy target. I won't let anyone treat me like that again. And that's real power. Months passed. Healing took time, but I focused on myself. I reconnected with old friends, traveled when I could, and found a sense of peace I hadn't known in years. Then, one day, I received a message from Kay's ex-affair partner's girlfriend. "Thank you," it read, "for everything." It was then I realized, sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's moving on and letting karma do the rest. In the end, I didn't feel victorious. There was no grand sense of triumph, no cinematic moment where I stood over the ruins of what she had done to me and laughed. There was no satisfaction in watching her break down, no thrill in seeing the guilt and regret finally take root in her eyes. Just silence. A quiet realization settled in my chest, heavier than I expected, yet somehow freeing. I was done. I was finally free. The pain was raw, still fresh like an open wound, but the weight, the unbearable, crushing weight of betrayal was gone. No more waking up with that sinking feeling in my stomach. No more replaying our conversations in my head, searching for the moment where I missed the signs. No more lies. No more humiliation. No more being played. She stopped trying to reach me after that day. Maybe she moved on. Maybe guilt consumed her, eating away at her like rust on metal. Maybe she convinced herself that she had done nothing wrong, that I was the villain in her story. I didn't care. For the first time in a long time, I truly didn't care. As for me, I stayed at my job. I held my head high, even on the days when it was hard. Even when the memories clawed at the back of my mind, whispering doubts, trying to make me believe that maybe I had overreacted, maybe I had been too harsh. But I knew better, because I had learned. I learned that trust, once broken, doesn't mend so easily. It doesn't snap back into place like an elastic band. No, it frays at the edges, pieces of it forever lost, leaving gaps that can never quite be filled again. I learned that love, real love, should never come at the cost of self-respect. That the moment you start sacrificing your dignity just to keep someone, you've already lost them. And most importantly, I learned that I was worth more. More than being someone's backup plan. More than being someone's convenient, comfortable, familiar option. More than being someone's easy target, their punching bag, their safety net when everything else falls apart. I promised myself something that day. I won't let anyone treat me like that again. And that's real power. Rebuilding myself months passed. The healing wasn't instant, it never is. The pain didn't simply fade overnight, but I refused to let it define me. I forced myself to move forward, even when it felt like my feet were dragging through quicksand. Some days were easier than others. I reconnected with old friends, the ones I had unintentionally pushed away during my relationship. It wasn't until I sat across from them, laughing over dinner, that I realized just how much of myself I had lost. I traveled when I could. Nothing extravagant, just little trips here and there. A weekend in the mountains. A road trip to the beach. Places I had always wanted to go, but never had the time for. I started reading again, something I had abandoned when my world revolved around her. I picked up new hobbies, some I loved, some I laughed at myself for even trying. I focused on myself, on rebuilding, on rediscovering who I was before I became a footnote in someone else's life. And slowly, so very slowly, I found a sense of peace I hadn't known in years. Then, one day, I received a message. It was from an unknown number, and for a split second, my stomach twisted with old anxieties. Had she finally decided to reach out? Had she found some new excuse, some new reason to drag me back into the past? But no, this wasn't from her. It was from someone else. Kay's ex-affair partner's girlfriend. I hesitated before opening it, fingers hovering over the screen, wondering if I even wanted to read whatever she had to say. Curiosity won. It was short, just 2 words. Thank you. I stared at the screen, confused, until another message followed. For everything. For a moment, I wasn't sure how to respond. What did she mean? What had I done for her? Then it hit me. She knew. Somehow, some way, she had found out the truth. About Kay, about the lies, about the betrayal. And instead of anger, instead of bitterness, instead of the mess of emotions I had been drowning in for months, all I felt was relief. Not because I wanted revenge, not because I wanted anyone else to hurt the way I had, but because, for the first time, I truly understood something. Sometimes, the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's moving on. It's healing. It's refusing to let the pain make you bitter. It's letting karma do the rest. And it always does. A new beginning, I won't lie and say that everything suddenly became perfect after that. Healing isn't linear. Some days, I still struggled. There were still nights when memories crept in, whispering doubts, stirring up old wounds. But they didn't control me anymore. I had survived. I had come out of this stronger, wiser, and more sure of myself than ever before. And one day, when I least expected it, I met someone new. It wasn't like in the movies. There was no dramatic, heart-stopping moment where our eyes locked across a crowded room. It was simple. A conversation that turned into another. A connection that grew naturally, without force, without fear. For the first time, I wasn't chasing love. I was letting it find me. And this time, I knew what I deserved. I knew what I would never tolerate again. And because of that, when love came back into my life, it wasn't built on fear. It wasn't built on insecurities or games or the desperate need to prove my worth. It was built on trust, on respect, on something real. Kay? She became nothing more than a chapter in my story. A lesson learned, a past I had no desire to revisit. And as for me, I kept moving forward. Because at the end of the day, the best thing I ever did was let go.